Welcome back to the program. Hey, Duff, Britain's M16 foreign spy service Richard Moore has said he has invited discontented Russians to share their secrets with British intelligence services. He made this announcement earlier today, and Moore said that Russia may be moved to cooperate with M16 due to what he calls the inexorable decay of government of Russian President Vladimir Putin, something he says has been shown by the Wagner mercenary group mutiny in the month of June. Mr. Moore also said it showed that Mr. Putin was under pressure, saying the Wagner leader was utterly created by Mr. Putin but still turned on him, quoting his criticism of the Russian leadership.
In horror as their soldiers ravage a kindred country. They know in their hearts that Putin's case for attacking a fellow Slavic nation is fraudulent, a miasma of lies and fantasy. One architect of that onslaught, Yevgeny Prigozhin, demolished the whole charade in a single sentence when he said, and I quote, "The war was needed for Shoigu to receive a hero star. The oligarchic clan that rules Russia needed the war." He added, and I stress, these were his words, not mine, "The mentally ill scumbags decided, it's okay, we'll throw in a few thousand more Russian men as cannon fodder. They'll die under artillery fire, but we'll get what we want." A few hours after saying that, Prigozhin was marching on Moscow, leading a mutiny which exposed the inexorable decay of the unstable autocracy over which Putin presides.
And to update on the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Crimea's Russian-backed governor, Sergei Aksyonov, has confirmed a fire that broke out at the military training grounds in the district in the Crimean Peninsula, forcing the evacuation of more than 2,000 people and the closure of nearby highway. One of the videos posted on social media showed fire and explosions in an uninhabited area. Reuters also was able to confirm the location of that video as near Sitari Kirim region, which is Crimea, from the nearby mountain, which matched satellite and file imagery of that area. Reuters was not able to independently confirm the date the video was filmed. There was no reason given for the fire, which comes 2 days after a blast damaged a bridge linking Russia to the Crimean Peninsula on Monday that Moscow has blamed on Ukraine and for which President Vladimir Putin vowed a retaliation. Russia today launched an extensive attack on the Ukrainian city of Odesa for a second night in a row, an assault dubbed as by authorities as hellish onslaught meant to destroy the possibility of shipping Ukrainian grain from its ports. The military said that the heat strike hit a grain and oil terminal, damaging tanks and equipment for loading. That attack started a fire at the port, and at the starting of the fire at the port and a commercial warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Local emergency services published footage showing damage at the warehouse on the 7-kilometer commercial market on Odesa's outskirts. South Africa has confirmed that Russian President Vladimir Putin will not be attending the BRICS summit holding later this month in Johannesburg. This announcement comes after President Cyril Ramaphosa said that any attempt to arrest his Russian counterpart will be a declaration of war against Russia. If Mr. Putin had left Russian soil, he would have been a subject to an international criminal court arrest warrant. South Africa is an ICC signatory and expected to help in Mr. Putin's arrest. The Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, will come in President Putin's stead.
By mutual agreement, President Putin of the Russian Federation will not attend the summit. However, Russia will be represented by Foreign Minister Mr. Sergei Lavrov. President Ramaphosa has in recent months and weeks held a number of consultations on the hosting of the summit. The President's most recent consultation in this regard took place yesterday at the BRICS Political Party Dialogue in Gauteng.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been making the case for the continuation of the Black Sea grain export despite Russia pulling out of this deal. On Tuesday, he said the deal could operate without Russian participation. Speaking to African journalists, Zelensky on the United Nations and Turkey to take the steps necessary to continue the grain export agreement. He added that Ukraine is not afraid of shipping grain without Russia's agreement. On Monday this week, Russia halted participation in the agreement, just 1 year old. It lets Ukraine grain through the Black Sea shipping corridor, causing concern in poorer countries that price rises will put food out of reach. Russia cited a link between the attack in the Crimean bridge and its decision to suspend the deal after it said that the deal failed to meet Russia's demands to implement a parallel agreement easing rules for its own food and fertilizer exports. The United Nations and Turkey brokered the landmark accord with Ukraine and Russia in July last year, which came with a separate agreement to facilitate shipments of Russian food and fertilizer that Moscow insists has not been applied.
Thank you so much.
Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba reiterated President Zelensky's plea for a continuation of the grain deal, saying that every option is being discussed as an alternative.
Also means additional Ukrainian grain to feed.
To His Excellency Dmytro Kuleba, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine.
Mr. President, thank you for your statement. Every liberated kilometer also means additional Ukrainian grain to feed the world and ease the global food crisis. Ukrainian children that I read today show that Russia's war has brought immense suffering. The cost we are paying for these kilometers is the lives of our people. And when foreign customers receive Ukrainian grain, I want them to understand that each kilogram of it was paid for with the ultimate price, the lives of our soldiers. So we are in the middle of the United Nations General Assembly session. If there is political will to ensure supply of Ukrainian cereals to global market, there must be a way to do that. And if Russia withdrew from the initiative, then Ukraine, Turkey, and the United Nations, or any other country or countries of the world could come up with their initiative, either to continue within the existing framework or to create a new model of deliveries. These discussions are literally about every possible option. Yesterday, when I had a meeting with the Secretary General ahead of his phone conversation with President Zelensky, we literally discussed all possible options with him, and he instructed relevant departments of the Secretariat to consider possible viable options. So less than 48 hours since Russia withdrew from the grain initiative, we are literally still looking into every possible option. We're doing it in Kiev, our partners are doing it in Brussels, in Washington, here at the headquarters, in Ankara. Everyone is looking for the way out, and every option is on the table now.
Well, Ukrainian troops have fired on Russian positions in the country's east on Tuesday from a Soviet-era multiple launch rocket system. The 59th Motorized Brigade shared drone footage with Reuters. It showed their rockets hit a target on the occupied territory nearby. Reuters could not verify the location nor the date the video was filmed. Just 6 weeks since Ukraine launched a counter-offensive in the east and the south, Kiev says it is deliberately advancing slowly to avoid high casualties on fortified defenses lines strewn with landmines. Joining me now is Professor Bola Akinterenwa with the Department of International Relations of Achievers University in Owo, Ondo State. Thank you, Professor, for joining us on The World Today.
It's a pleasure being with you.
All right. Do you agree with Russia's reasoning for pulling out of this grain deal, citing military activities on the Black Sea shipping and, of course, the lack of seriousness on the part of partners on this deal?
I would say yes, but we can also argue on the platform of no. You see, when Newton in physics said action and reaction are equal and opposite, this is not true when it comes to strategic calculations. We are in a war situation. Russia has acted within the framework of a war situation. And now I will justify my position first at the level of being a nationalist. What is the position of any African, of any Nigerian like me, for instance? What is it that Nigeria stands to gain from this development? I think that any country that is seeking in international politics self-protection cannot blame Russia. One will agree with Russia in this type of situation. More so, when you look at it internationally, the issue is that we have many conflicting international principles. The principle of legitimate self-defense, for instance, will require Russia, right, to take any measure that will enable its own survival, that will enable self-preservation. Now, you cannot expect Russia, for instance, to be cooperating with the world when the whole world, all right, is taking sanctionary measures against Russia, trying to neutralize Russia. So in this case, Russia must take all measures. There's another policy principle. Why would Russia sign an agreement that it will suddenly repudiate midway or last way? One rationale can be the principle of dull, according to which in international law, if you induce me into an error, if you make me sign what I wouldn't have signed under normal circumstances, you can repudiate. You can do away with it. But the issue in this particular case is that Russia might have also signed the agreement with the intention of repudiating, going away. So using that one as a tactical measure. So when we are looking at it, do you agree with or you do not agree with? The bottom line is that Russia does not want to lose any war. It will be disastrous for it. Then of this war, people just talk about the war in Ukraine, Russia and Ukraine. No.
All right. Okay, I guess we lost the professor there, but we're going to get back to him to continue this conversation if we can before we finish the program. But let's continue with at least 15 people have died after an electricity transformer exploded on the banks of the Alkanda River in the North Indian state of Uttarakhand. Authorities say a police official and 5 home guards were among those killed in that accident, which took place in Chamoli district area. The state's chief, Mr. Pushkar Singh Dhami, has ordered an inquiry into the incident that took place on Tuesday night but was reported on Wednesday morning. 15 people have also been severely injured in the accident and they are being treated at the district's main hospital. Deaths from electrocution are frequently reported in India, where poor wiring and infrastructure often lead to serious accidents. All right, we have Professor Bola Akitarewa back from the Department of International Relations of Achievers. Thank you very much for joining us again. So let's continue the discussion this time. I mean, the Ukrainian president has said that the deal can work without Russia, but remembering that this grain will pass the Black Sea. So do you think that this deal can actually work without Russia interference?
There is nothing impossible. But the issue is that in understanding the impossibility, you need to look at the conditionalities, the environmental conditionings. Left to me, I cannot imagine how the alternatives, the options that are being considered by the anti-Russian forces, because the grain that Ukraine will want to export to the world, as of now, must pass through the Black Sea. And the Russians have already laid traps midway. So whatever option you are going to do, they are within the framework of the epicenter of Russian attack. In other words, if the whole world, the US, the Europeans, will now have the means of confronting militarily the Russians to provide a safe cover, then it will be possible. But with the situational reality on ground now, I cannot see how that can work. They will be taking a lot of risks. You know, when Russia decided to check out of the deal, to opt out of the deal, it was deliberate, it was conscious. And what did Russia do after checking out? They attacked many strategic places that will enable, in fact, they attacked the grain depository where they have all these things for shipment. Why? So Russia does not want any exportation to the West of any grain. Secondly, Russia is now saying that you cannot ask me to comply with any agreement that is detrimental to the protection of the Russian national interest. So I think that any consideration without Russia, without seeking an entente cordial with Russia, is a very big strategic miscalculation, and there must be caution.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Bola Akiterewa from the Department of International Relations of Achievers University in Owo, Ondo State. Thanks a lot for your contribution on The World Today.
Thank you for having me.